Welcome in, everybody. It's the Real Spiel live show with your host, Roman Kelly, and my co-host, Trevor Kelsey. We're reporting live from Louisville, Kentucky, somewhat after hours, 40 minutes past 9 o'clock here. We're watching some live games and some live lines still, of course, but we've got a lot to talk about. Louisville basketball related, Super Bowl related. Got some Louisville news on another sport. Coaching news on another sport. I'm sure you guys have all heard. Going to get Trevor's opinion on that. And yeah, just have a little talk here about the last few days of what's been going on. Trevor, how have you been doing today? What's been going on? How have you been?
I'm fine. How are you? It's been 9 days. Like the Sinead O'Connor song. It's been 14 hours, 6 days, and since I last heard from you, there's nothing compares to you, Roman. It's been good. Louisville's obviously still continuing to win. The Eagles are continuing to win.
10-game win streak for the Cards.
I mean, I guess all I do is win no matter what. Is what they.
What do you know about that?
That's hold on. Is that DJ Khaled?
Yeah, Khaled.
Yeah, I look like a white DJ Khaled, don't I? A little bit. I mean, come on.
Kind of similar build.
Yeah. Because they say all fat people do look alike. I mean, come on. If I could have a nickel for every time a fat white dude was like, "Are you related to him?" I'm like, no, we just both like to eat. Okay.
So Trevor, yeah, I'm doing well. I'm feeling good about my Cardinals. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I'm not excited to hear the news of Louisville volleyball. Danny Busboom Kelly.
Well, we and that one coaching move, you should be excited. Maybe are you that your Saints now have a new head coach via my Philadelphia Eagles and Kellen Moore.
How do you feel about that? I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
We'll see how it goes. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. We'll see if he's prepared to undertake this. What is a mess right now?
Can I point out something real quick? I love this lack of professionalism between the two of us. Like, you have the headset on, you have a mic, you're well lit, you have stuff decorated perfectly behind you, and then over on this side, I feel like that scene in 22 Jump Street when one's listening to Creed and the other's listening to Ass and Titties. That's you over there, Channing Tatum. Here I am over here, Jonah Hill. And it's dark. It's gloomy in here. It's you can't barely see. I got a cigarette going. I'm surprised the dogs haven't barked yet. It's the most unprofessional looking shit you'll ever see. I just love the different shades between the two of us right here.
You've got a studio in the works right now. Things will be changing soon. It's all good. This is just, I've gotten this equipment, so I've forced myself to have a somewhat nice setup. There's still some things it needs work. I've got a desk that is just not being used right here, but it's just part of it.
Are we doing tours of the house now? You don't want to see
it. No, I'm just showing you that it's not as perfect as it seems in this, just from this one shot here. But Trevor,
now let's talk about some great. Let's talk about some Cardinals here, because I want you to talk first, because we did see the SMU game. This was 2 games ago. Last time we talked 9 days ago, we had these 2 games that were since then played at SMU and home Wake Forest, the 2 Tuesday week apart games. Before that, on that show, I showed worry. I said these are 2 games that I should be scared about. Louisville should be scared about. These are 2 statement games for Louisville. While they're not the top tier that you're going to get from other conferences and interconference opponents, because the ACC is kind of shitty this year. It is what it is. You got to play with the cards you're dealt with, but no pun intended. But these were the 2 games that worried me. And Roman, tell me, was I just a complete fucking idiot? Should I have any reason to be worried?
No, I mean, it wasn't. You were a little over, maybe over. No, you weren't even overly worried, I would say, but you were very cautious. You were very, very cautious of what going on the road to SMU could potentially be, and the scrappiness, the defense that Wake Forest could potentially have for us, and the effort level that they were going to bring, and the coaching we thought, they were going to be. We had seen better coaching than that, I felt like. But when you get rattled like that at the start of a game, there's not even much a coach can do at that point, going forward into that game. So I wouldn't say you were an idiot. I just said we were. I think we need to be. It's like what I was saying like 3 weeks ago when I was saying I have to believe more in Chucky. You have to believe more in Pat Kelsey and what we've watched, what we've seen. I wouldn't say 3 weeks ago. It was about 2 weeks ago, but they handle business on both ends of the floor. And when something goes awry in any way, shape, or form, it's fixed. Every player knows their role. They know the task at hand. Nobody tries to play out of their game. Nobody tries to do too much. When one player doesn't have it on, we figure something out. It's and with a lack of depth and players injured, it's been the last 2 games, Trevor, the 2 games we thought were going to be potentially the closest 2 games we had left on our schedule. We just completely handled both teams.
Yeah, and one of the games is still coming up that you were a little worried, and it still has reason for me to be worried a little bit is the Notre Dame game on the road, because it's a road game. It's Notre Dame. It's just the history with Notre Dame playing at Notre Dame with Louisville. I mean, whether it's irrelevant to compare historic 10 years ago to now because night and day. It's still there. Same with the Virginia game going to John Paul Jones Stadium, arena, whatever. There was no reason we should have been worried going there. We showed we had no reason to be worried going there, but our history showed we should be worried going there. And history changes, thankfully. Pat Kelsey's changing history. The Kelseys are making it better. I won't get too much in the SMU game because it is now 2 games irrelevant, but I will say, it was the best performance this team had played from start to finish. I mean, the Syracuse game to me was that. Opponent aside, but Louisville in the SMU game just looked dominant. I can't think off the top of my head if I had any negatives on my little type sheet other than maybe the I can't think of anything. Now, the Virginia game, so we'll move on real quickly to not Virginia, but Wake Forest, where Louisville in the first half, just completely destroyed Wake Forest mentally. They were done. The game was over. Obviously, we won't be the first to bring it up. If you were watching the game, you were probably talking about it, and it's been talked about a little bit to nauseam since we've gotten on. But the last 14 minutes of that game, and I mean literally 14 minutes in the second half of that game, Louisville, despite what John Rothstein likes to think, put their foot on the brakes. Pat Kelsey took it, put off the gas. Louisville.
I wouldn't say Kelsey did. There was definitely a lack of effort, a lack of energy, which you're up 25 with 6 minutes left. I get it. 7 minutes left. I get it. It's hard to stay into a game like that.
Well, there's the thing. And what worries me is I brought this up in the Virginia home game as well, going into SMU. In the second half of that Virginia team, you were excited. Everybody was pumped. We beat them by 14, I think it was in the end. But I said, the second half of that game, from about the 10-minute mark on, Louisville looked complacent. They just didn't – I don't know what it is. They just didn't show – maybe I'm spoiled because I saw the energy they showed in that Syracuse road game where they never took their foot literally off the brake and just abused Syracuse. Maybe it's being on the road opposed to being at home in these scenarios because both the ones that pulled off, they were home games. But, I said it in the Virginia game, and that's one of the reasons I was a little worried going into SMU because I thought, they're going to put their foot off the brake. I hope they don't go in complacent on the road, and they didn't, obviously, and dominated SMU. And they weren't complacent on the first half against Wake Forest. And it's not even this is first world problems, though. Now, the problem is that if you do that against the North Carolina or Clemson, it could come back and burn you. Wake Forest was so mentally out of it at that point. When Louisville went up 60-31, at that point, it was the 14-minute mark in the game. Wake Forest outscored Louisville 28-12. Louisville only scored 12 points the last 14 minutes of the game. And most of it was just kind of they almost played the last 12, 14 minutes like you see in the last 30 seconds when the walk-ons are on the court. They're just kind of standing around, maybe looking to just take a last-second jump shot at the shot clock ending. I even fairly was with 4 minutes left in the game thinking, let's put McCool in. If this is the way the kind of guys are going kind of with the motions right now, let's just put the walk-ons in with 4 minutes left. Let them go out there and hustle and show some spirit.
Yeah, I was thinking the same exact thought. Because at that point you're not getting anything from who's out there. I didn't understand that. He did call a timeout, and from the things I've heard, lay it in on him. He ripped him new ones.
It was a good timeout.
The energy level.
Kelsey's thinking right before he called it, I was thinking the same thing. That we need a timeout. The lead was 16 or 17 at that point, and I was like, we're just playing, we're just kind of there. We weren't playing poorly. That's the thing. We weren't giving them up and giving up layups so easily, but we just weren't hustling really, and just kind of showing up and kind of like when you're 8 years old and you play at the Y and we're just like standing on the X and we're not like really trying to do anything else. I mean, defensively, especially, and offensively, the same thing. It just looked complacent. And if that's one thing to worry about, then I mean, that is the one thing you can be. But again, we did that against Virginia and we came out, on the road at SMU and dominated. So, I mean, I don't think it's any reason to be worried going into Georgia Tech. There should be no reason at all to worry about going to Georgia Tech. But I mean, I tell you what, there's one positive by the way we changed our way of play at that point in the game. Had we not done that, there's a good chance this game would still be going on because Wake Forest would still be getting technicals. We had mentally screwed them up so bad that if we hadn't pulled our back the way we did, they'd probably gotten 3 more guys kicked out. They were whining at everything. They were out of it. And us doing that at least allowed the officials not to have to call 42 fouls in the game because they probably would have. If we'd continued playing our aggressive style the last 14 minutes of that game, we'd have probably shot 45 free throws. I mean, the rest knew the game was getting touchy. I mean, that's why your boy got thrown out.
You're right.
So, I mean, that's a positive thing, people. If you want to be positive, had we not done that, and this game would still be playing right now. Are you playing around with the name thing?
I'm just trying to make sure it's all right. So you're right. Well, the one thing I want to go to before I get to the Wake Forest, SMU, there wasn't anything to critique there. It was nearly a perfect performance, start to finish. The end score got a little. I think we could have even put it on them a little more with the end score because of we were hunting the records right at the end. Missed it on a not wasted possessions, but there's just a couple quick possessions where we're trying to get our guys the right plays to get those records over. But start to finish, it was just a beatdown. Wake Forest.
The only disappointment the only disappointment was with it. Rain didn't get, even though I love the step back he got the record on. I really wanted to get it when Chucky. There was a play where Chucky kind of and he went behind his back to him in the corner, and I was like, that is such a beautiful play. But he missed that one. I was like, oh, come on. Even though I did love the guys on you, Rain, that would have been almost perfect. Because I think that would have been like Chucky's 16th assist. That would have been like tying the record on both. It would have been
both. I wanted the record to be broken on both. That would have been super, super dope. But Wake Forest, just from 5 minutes, from about 5 to 6 minutes in the game to on, they were completely out of it. The Hildreth kid was clearly sick or something. He was nothing out there for him. Tyler, he clearly came into this game with preparing for there to be antics and extras going on, and he clearly wasn't ready for it. He got into his head about it on top of not being able to get past Chucky or Terrence. He got shut down. Missed the layup on the breakaway. Thought that was pretty funny. Student section chanting, "Where's your tights?" or whatever they were chanting. I forgot already, but I thought that was funny too.
What's the great saying from "Don't drink your juice in the hood" in the South Central? You can take Shamiqua out the hood, but you can't take the hood out Shamiqua. You can take Tyler back off Tyler. So that's kind of what that free throw that layup turned out to. The KP effect. Damn fool. The KP effect.
We should have put this but the last 5 minutes of the game, no field goal bucket, no free throw bucket. It just is not. That wasn't good. I like Pat Kelsey having something to take away from that game that they can work on and emphasize and remind themselves, bring them back down to earth a little bit. Because when you're in the midst of a 10-game win streak, you're feeling like you can't be beat at that point. Your aspirations for what you want to do this year are full flow. You're confident, and that was the end of that game. Is a great reminder. Hey, this is what happened. You guys look stupid when you don't keep your head in the game, and this is what it looks like. So I like that. I guess in that sense, that coming in a win.
I think it's safe to say we've moved past the I'm so glad to be back to the stage to now we're at the why are we only beating these schmucks by 14-point stage. And that's a good place to be at, and the little program should be now. Can even I think we'd be back to this quickly? No. I mean, and the thing to me, I mean, we're without 2 of our significant players that aren't coming back in Pryor and Johnson, but we're still going to get Waterman back, I would expect, at some point in this season, hopefully with enough time to get the rest off of him before maybe a March run. But, I'd like to think I haven't heard any news of him being out, indefinitely, and I don't think he would be with his injury, but, to get him back as well, I mean, to go along with Roos, who's played real well as a freshman, when he hustles, don't try to do too much offensively. I love you for it, but he brings that hustle play. A B or by, is coming in and giving us 2-3 minutes each and there. Getting Waterman back will be a
Frank
big plus.
Anselm eBay.
Sorry, Jim Boeheim. Jim Boeheim was so happy to see him in the game. Like I was like, until then, I don't think Boeheim was even awake. Like I could have swore he fell asleep at some point in the first half, and rightfully so. I mean,
it's like what he was there for. Yeah, I mean, it was just a complete trouncing, domination.
When announcers are like arguing over like high school stats in like 2 minutes in the second half, the game's a blowout. I mean, it's the worst nightmare for basketball play-by-play people because you're not built to like fill the gaps like you are in baseball when you have basketball game when you're doing basketball games, and when Louisville's just blowing you out the way they are, blowing out one opponent's blowing out the other, the way Louisville's blowing out Wake Forest. I mean, short of just like trying not to laugh at the way Wake Forest is just collapsing. I mean, I know Wake Forest is mad the guy got thrown out for the technical for the taunting. But if anything, you should be ejected for just taunting when you're down by 30 because you dunked on somebody. The ignorance of doing that alone should have had to ejected.
What you're saying all keeps me back reminded, like, why this should have been a game that we're up 25 minimum with 4 minutes left, and the walk-ons are getting 3 minutes of playtime because of the domination that you just put over a team. The fact that the end of the game had to go like that, you had to keep starters out there because the other team's making shots because the defensive energy level is completely non-existent at that point, and you're being thoughtful there's no like you're just being no effort on the offensive end either. You're not following through with sets and you're taking bad shots. So I just
they're just going with the motion. I mean, they were just taking shots at the shot clock.
Completely going through with the motions. Like at that point, like that's just not how that game should have ended. And I don't like to nitpick that deep in a win, but at the same time, when you put a beat down on somebody, put a beat down on somebody.
And I mean, and not to be, negative Nancy, but I mean, if there's one thing to nitpick on other than what we're just doing right now, would be, maybe some of Terrence Edwards' 3-point shooting right now. I mean, it's been.
Yeah, he had a couple more bad step backs that just.
It's just, and you saw it even in the SMU game where, you could tell he was just trying to force, and the shot just looks flat. I don't know if it's his legs are not underneath him. I don't know if his release is not that bad looking. It's just, the mechanics don't look awful. It's just the fact that the shot just looks flat and just does not look like he doesn't look like he's shooting. It's like he's trying to aim. And if anybody plays basketball, know if you're a shooter, you don't aim, you shoot. Yeah. And he's looking like he's trying to aim it, and it's not coming off well. And the problem is that if you go back and watch, and if you haven't, I don't blame you. I've only seen highlights because it's hard to find full games with James Madison on it. But he wasn't a guy that shot threes in James Madison. That's not his game. And I understand that he wants to kind of, kind of get with the group, and that's what this offense does. And I have no problem with it. Taking a few extra threes is one thing, but it takes him away from the fact that, and I've said this early in the season, I think it still stands true that, it's not that he's not having trouble getting into the lane, which is his bread and butter. I think it's just the level of talent difference between your average Sun Belt opponent and your ACC opponent, regardless how weak this conference may be this year, is vastly different. And I think the fact is that when he gets in the lane, you've noticed, I've made jokes about his pump faking that, in Sun Belt play, he was getting the foul line on a lot of those pump fakes. And you get in the ACC play, these are smarter players. These are guys that in some cases are like 25 years old, like he is now, who've been, through the motions, and they're not going to fall for that. And it's getting into the free throw line a lot less than he ever did. I mean, he's only had 75 free throw attempts this year. He had like 200 and something in his last year at JMU. So, I mean, he's just not getting the line enough. And I think that's one reason why scoring has been down. And the forced threes just, I mean, it's not affecting us right now. But I promise you, when you get into a game against a Duke, or we get in a tournament play, second round, third round, or even, God forbid, farther, which, knock on wood, I think is still a possibility now. You can't have that. I can't have him going 1 for 10 from 3-point line. When, even though the fucked up thing is, and I don't mean to cuss too much, but it's when I think about it, is he takes 11 threes, I think, in the last game. Like 6 of them were wide open. I mean, it wasn't like they were just off. I mean, I know that people want to bitch about being step backs. That's fine, but I mean, they were open looks. I mean, he's not like Rain Smith takes 13 threes in a game, and 10 of them are probably like, what the fuck are you doing looks? And he still hits 6 of them. I mean, because that's who Rain Smith is. Terrence, I mean, Williams, I want to call him Jitterbug instead of Fat, but I mean, he's open. He's just not hitting him. I mean,
yeah, he's not getting him to drop. Yeah, on a few of those fadeaways.
Blow up. There's going to be a game where I feel like he's going to hit like 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 11. And
I think so too.
Justin Tucker in a massage parlor all over the table, and just live it up. Which, by the way, go back to that story. I love Justin Tucker because he won me fantasy football so many times.
Justin Tucker is a freak.
I want this legally. I can't understand this. This is like 13 years ago this happened. Isn't the statute?
No, it's like 10.
Okay, so isn't the statute of limitation of jizz on a table like 3 years? I mean, I don't know what I've seen 20 years of SVU. I don't remember seeing that on an episode.
It's seeming like it was like around 10 years ago, but then with some of the tweets and some of the things that are starting to pop up, like there's some tweets from 2021. I don't know. It's interesting to see when what's going to come from this. But
if you say
it's Diddy behavior. That's all. It's Diddy behavior. If it's true that he was actually doing that to masseuses, to hell with them.
I don't understand. Okay, here's the thing. You can deny it all you want. I don't give a fuck. I've been to legit massage parlors. Okay, I've been to those massage parlors. Okay, if you can't tell the difference when you're walking in, you got a problem. All right, unless you've been like drinking and doing coke for like 34 straight hours, there's no way you can't tell the difference between a place who only greets you through a sliding panel on the door and one who actually opens it up and has like good lighting. Okay, you can't tell the difference between that massage parlor and that massage parlor, then you got an issue to begin with, man. There's no confusion there. And don't tell me I got them mixed up. If you're pulling it out in a legit massage parlor, then I mean, there's a good chance you own a trench coat.
He's got issues for sure. He's got some issues. If that's all really what it is, seems to be. Don't really wish him well if that's all true. But
I mean,
he came out with some stuff today that's saying it's all not true. So,
what do you think he's going to do? Come out and say, "Yeah, it was me." I told him I was a kicker. They wanted to see my real third leg. I mean, what do you think he's going to say to that shit?
You're right. I don't know what I thought he'd say, but it's still. I mean, I don't know if it is all true and you're saying all that. That's just weird. It's just all weird to me. It's Diddy behavior.
If he did say it, I would love Justin Tucker maybe a little more, despite how sick he might be. Just the fact that he would admit it, I'd be like, you know what? Let the guy go. No harm, no foul, right?
There's some harm. It seems like there was some harm, though.
Don't get me wrong. We'll have to cut him, and he's got to pay some ladies, which sucks because he tried to pay him for something. He didn't. But a lot of stories ends up, isn't it? But let's move on. No jail time needed. But somebody got out of prison just because pulled it out. That's a great.
It's just. But yeah, you don't need to be allowed in any establishments like that ever again. You need to be put on some kind of list, I think. But yeah, let's move on from that. That's that Diddy freak stuff there.
I like
Trevor. Not a lot of big games tomorrow, actually, at all in college basketball. There is a lot Saturday. A lot of games Saturday. Louisville plays Georgia Tech. 3:45 on the CW network. How do you feel about the CW network?
How do you know the announcer to be? It's a CW. I mean, it kind of reminds me like when I was a kid watching, when Fox first came on the networks and seeing, the way they were handling programming. It's very amateurish level, but it's fun to watch. I mean, it's at least we're on TV. I'll take the CW over streaming 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
it's the 3:45 time, which obviously means that we're going to get into the game like 2 minutes into the game because whatever game before us they're airing, it's going to go long. These networks to this day, I mean, it's been like how many years they've been running games, and they still think every game is going to last 2 hours. And the way they schedule these broadcasts and these tip-offs is ridiculous. So likely we'll get like 2 minutes in the game, which sucks for us as Louisville fans because after about 2 minutes, the game may already be over. I mean, I expect Louisville to not – I mean, this is SMU on steroids on Saturday, I think. Georgia Tech's a pesky little team. They, unlike Louisville, who's undefeated in this year in 2025, I think they're like 2-8. They've had some struggles. I think they've got their wins. They're against Boston College, who's obviously not very good. And I can't remember who their other win was against. It was somebody actually not horrible. Virginia Tech, also a home game, by the way, both home games. Virginia Tech, an average team at best. This is a team that doesn't play a lot of defense. They do give up points. They're going to try to outscore you, even though they only average like 65 points a game, which is not good for Damon Stoudemire. He might want to suit up. He would be the best player on the team at 45. Which would give me nightmares because I still have cold sweats waking up against that Arizona Damon Stoudemire team in '96 Sweet 16. I'm watching Clifford Rozier try to not run again across half court because he's being so fucking lazy. If Louisville doesn't win this game, and I don't expect them to pull the brakes off like they do on home. I think it's something about being at home that they do that. Because on the road, they've not done it at Virginia. They didn't do it at Florida State. And they sure as hell didn't do it against Syracuse. And I don't think they're going to do it tomorrow, or SMU, by the way. I don't think they'll do it on Saturday as well against Georgia Tech. I think Louisville's going to roll in this game, win by 20 points. I mean, I can't see this. I think Louisville makes another statement in this game and down in Atlanta.
I can't say 20 because of what I've seen us do kind of at the end of a couple of games now. But I'll say we should win by 15 plus. I expect us to win by 15 plus. I expect us to score 70 plus points. That's just my expectation. This Georgia Tech team has been absolutely handled by teams we've handled. They lost bad to Florida State. They lost bad to Clemson. They lost bad to SMU. They lost not bad to Syracuse, but Syracuse took care of business handedly on their home floor.
Georgia Tech beat last year. Weren't they? I think them and Miami were the two conference wins for KP, right? Am I not mistaken?
I think you're right.
I know Miami for sure because
I think Georgia Tech. Yeah, I think you're right. Was it Georgia Tech or Florida State? Or was Florida State 2 years ago?
Might have been. Yeah, I could have sworn Georgia Tech was one of the wins last year. I might be wrong. And then I think Clemson was the one the year before because of the whole we did the rust.
Yeah. One of the four. Yeah.
Because that was like
that was the only one. That was the only one. That was the only one 2 years. Yeah.
You got to point out it was like the commemorative day that it was because otherwise you're gonna look at that and be like, hello. Fuck did they beat Clemson? Like a lot of emotion, people.
They just lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Notre Dame just lost to Notre Dame by 3 points.
Notre Dame came back and won that game. Again, Georgia Tech's not. I mean, they're kind of young in a world where most of your teams are, unless you're John Calipari, most of your teams are older and upperclassmen transfers. Despite they do have couple seniors on the team, but they start, I think, 3 sophomores as well, or at least 2 sophomores. On the team. So they relatively that's young in today's age, but I like Damon Stoudemire. I don't know how good a job he's going to end up doing there. It hasn't looked like it's been a great one, but I just didn't see Louisville. Louisville comes in this game. This is the type of game if Louisville loses, it's because they kind of screwed themselves. I mean, to quote Vince McMahon, it would be PK screwing PK because there's no reason why you going down even. The toughest decision this team should have on Saturday is whether they go by the varsity and get cheeseburgers or not.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which they should. Cheeseburgers at varsity. It's a good place. I
just don't see them. The Nathan George kid, he's pretty good. He averages, he's their point guard. He averages 10 points, 6 assists, 17th in the nation in assists. Doesn't shoot very well at all. Not that great of a scorer. Like out on the perimeter, really, but he can shoot it. He can shoot it. He's just doesn't take great shots. But he does kind of run their offense. And Chucky's going to shut that down. Chucky's going to absolutely shut that down. They've got the other kid, the senior Lance Terry. He can shoot very well. He's their shooting guard, like 40. Let me go look. I know he's shooting 40 plus. I think 44% from 3 or from home right now. At home, he's shooting 44% from 3. This season, he's shooting 39% from 3 on the season. Can't let him get hot, but with the size that Terrence Edwards has and what I've seen Terrence Edwards do to some of these other off guards, I'm not really worried about the Terry kid either. I don't know much about the JV and McCollum kid. I'll need to go watch a couple more highlights. He seemed to be able to put some points on the board for them. He's averaging just under right at 13 points per game on the season. Another guard that can get downhill. It looks like from the highlights I watched just on the Notre Dame stuff. But
I grew up watching Bobby Krim at Georgia Tech, and not one of these kids would make that team. I mean, this is not. This is like looking at Louisville last 2 years ago when you think these aren't guys that should be playing at Louisville. That's these. I mean, they're fine kids, I'm sure, but what you're reading off are what I like to call the Tony Campbell effect. And that's not before your time because I'm old, but then there's probably somebody more relevant I could use. But to explain the Tony Campbell effect is somebody's got to score. I mean, eventually someone's going to put up points. You can be the shittiest team in the world. Somebody's going to put up points in the end and look like a decent player. I'm not saying they're not decent players. They're average players. It's an average team. Chucky, if your best player right now is a guard, you're going against Louisville, you need to start ranking. I mean, you're going to Chucky. The fact that Chucky's going to take out your best player if he's a guard going into the contest tells me right now, I mean, you need to be worried, and that's what Georgia Tech should definitely be worried.
I'm right there with you. Not
to mention, this whole starting five just, I mean, God, the team rotates. I was rewatching a little Ted Lasso season. You ever watch Ted Lasso?
No, I still haven't.
You're a soccer guy. What the fuck?
I know.
So I'm rewatching season 3 of Ted Lasso the other night, and there's a scene when they go to Amsterdam, and he tries some tea, and he has these fever effects, and he starts reminiscing the 1992 Chicago Bulls and their triangle offense, which I applaud the show for pointing out that Tex Winters, not Phil Jackson, invented the triangle offense. But the point of the story is that long story short, is he came to the conclusion of what they call total football that they played in the Hollands in the 70s and still do in some places, where there's no position. It's positionless football. Everybody rotates and takes each other's spot as they go. That's Louisville's starting lineup in basketball. I mean, just everyone is so interchangeable in the five. Even when you bring in, whether it be a Waterman when he comes back healthy, or Roos right now currently, or anybody else off the bench. I mean, the little bench that you use, it's everyone just kind of moves and it changes just without missing a beat. And offensively, the same thing goes. Not only is that defensively, which is why this team has been so good defensively over these last 10 games. The opponents doesn't hurt, but it's step one into being a dominant program is doing to the teams you're supposed to do it to. If you're supposed to dominate a team, then dominate them. That's step one, and that's what Louisville's doing. They're taking care of the business they're supposed to take care of on a regular basis. Next step 2 is bring on Duke, and I want Duke, but
you want Duke.
These five just switch out so beautifully, and just you don't know. And whether it be Hadley one night or Williams, who might, just like I said, and will eventually get hot one game and kill you. Chucky, obviously, while he may be inconsistent sometimes offensively, wasn't against Wake Forest, but was, in other games, he's going to be consistent defensively. It's if you're a team like Kentucky, I like Kentucky. I don't like Kentucky, but, Kentucky is a team, and they're a team that's going to outscore you. And you've seen that. They're not going to play the greatest defense. They're going to take some lapses. They want to outscore you. That's not what like Tennessee does, which amazed me in the upset. But Louisville, you play that kind of game against Louisville right now, the way they're playing, that's not a team. It's like what SMU is. They're a team that's not going to play great defense, but they know they can score. Louisville's going to whoop that team. And you saw that against SMU. That's why I'd like to take on Kentucky again right now. Like Louisville's playing defensively. I don't care how good you are offensively. You're going to have to really bring it on your defensive side to slow us down to make and muck up this game, because we're not going to give it up easy right now. We're no prom date after a wine cooler, okay? We're not giving it up easy.
After a wine cooler.
They still drink wine coolers? What do you kids drink? I don't know. I mean, vapes? I don't know.
They drink wine coolers, I'm sure, still.
So,
Trevor, you're feeling confident about Georgia Tech. You're saying 20-plus point victory.
Yes. No worry at all.
No worry at all. Before we move on to
correct,
a couple of questions.
I had that same confidence Virginia coming into Yum, and until we pulled the brakes off with about 8 minutes left in that game, I was right on that.
Yeah. Before we move on, before a couple more questions I have for you about the remainder of the season and what things could mean, I want to ask you about the remainder for Saturday's slate. Florida, Tennessee, in Tennessee, 12 o'clock. Florida, the number 5 team in the nation. Tennessee, the number 8 team in the nation. Who do you have?
Interesting note, Mike White was the first person I ever interviewed on radio. At the time, he was the assistant coach at Ole Miss, and I almost said the R word, Trevor, said Mississippi State twice during the interview. And he called me out on it on the interview live. One of the more humbling, embarrassing moments of my what ended up being it's still a going on career, but very young. My very first interview ever was Mike White, assistant for Ole Miss. Now he's head coach of Florida. Or that's not. It's he's at Georgia. I'm sorry. See, that's right. That's right. I forgot Mike White's not at Florida anymore. He's at Georgia. Golden's at Florida. That's right.
Yeah, I was like,
see, I'm still.
I was wondering what point you were about to make. We'll bring it from there.
Up Mike White interviews over here, Roman.
You don't know who he coaches for. Never have.
I'm still
Providence is going to St. John. St. John's is going to take care of business against Providence. Pitt and Wake Forest. I'm interested to see how that game plays out at noon as well on ESPN2. I'm interested to see if Wake Forest can bounce back and get a win over Pitt there, but we kind of need Pitt to get a win here and continue on their trajectory of staying in that top 50 and stuff.
I'm giving up about what the rest of the ACC does because I feel that we're going to roll through the rest of our schedule. That's how confident I am. I'm just concerned on how we play Duke in the ACC tournament. That's where I'm at right now. I'm not concerned about our resume being built up by our opponents, even though Clemson I know is looking good still. And that'll be a team I know that probably wants us. But, I mean, God forbid, we beat Clemson with 4 of our 5 guys playing like shit. Hadley literally carried that entire game with our other big 3 just playing their worst game offensively they've played all year at the same time. But
it goes back to what you just said, though. It goes back to somebody molds in. Somebody fills a role that needs to be filled whenever there needs to be one.
And like what Tennessee will tell you and Ole Miss will tell you and what Iowa State will tell you, defense travels, defense stays. That's why you want to play good defense over – I prefer defense over offense. It might not be the most prettiest thing, but look at me. Am I the prettiest thing? No. But you know what? I might be great defensively, and I can still score occasionally, and not as much as maybe Roman over here, but I'll still dip my toe in the pool sometimes.
UConn's playing Marquette. I like UConn in that spot on the road at Marquette. Texas Tech playing who was it? I just saw at Houston. I like Houston to roll there. Outside of that, top 25 matchups, there isn't very many. Kansas is playing Baylor. That's not. Baylor's not ranked, but could be an interesting game there. Baylor's been playing hard lately. Alabama, number 4, playing at home with Georgia coming to town. I think they're probably going to roll there as well. Vanderbilt going to see Oklahoma.
I'm giving Mike White love now. I'm remembering he's at Georgia. Georgia at home plays good at home. I don't know. I like Alabama.
They're on the road.
I thought you said Alabama at Georgia. I think you said at
Georgia at Alabama. Yeah, Georgia at Alabama.
Yeah, take Alabama. They roll. Georgia at home can be scary though. I would like that game in the points because Alabama's going to be double figures, but to win that,
Auburn and Ole Miss.
At Ole Miss
is at home. Yeah.
Ole Miss.
Is there any chance there?
I think right now, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. Dre Davis is the only former UofL player that we've played this year. We'll play like 6 of them, I think, when the season's all said and done. That has beaten us. Am I correct in that? Him at Ole Miss. We beat Matt Cross. We beat Tyler.
We beat Withers.
We
haven't played Brandon Hunley Hatfield yet.
Well, we will play him at some point, along with Mike James as well if he gets healthy.
Yeah, you're right.
I think Dre Davis, who by the way pimped us, and he played really well in that game. That was our only time we've lost in our rematch versus the ghosts of the last 2 seasons, I guess you could say. Even though Trey Davis was technically a Chris Mack guy, he wasn't a KP guy. But I like Ole Miss. I'm not going to be sad, but that game, I'll take Ole Miss on the upset at home. And back to before I screwed up all the coaching, I like Todd Golden. I know you're a Golden guy. I know Rutherford loves the Golden. But I do like.
I like the way he coaches. I like his on-court coaching. Don't like anything else about Todd Golden.
I'll be honest with you, I've not given him and Florida credit all year. They've kind of burned me a few times in bets because I just think, they're going to come down to earth. I think it's because I've won them on the Kentucky game and I haven't given them credit since for some reason. I'm not going to give it to them now. If it's at Tennessee, I like Tennessee to win this game, but Florida's not. I mean, they're a good team. I was wrong about them. I thought they were just kind of fluff going into the season as they were with their undefeated run with beating only Florida State. But I watched them play since, and they are a solid team.
All right, Trevor, we're going to do a little segment here. It's not going to change based on what you've just told us, but I'm going to say our opponent and where the location of the game is. You're going to tell me Louisville win and by how much, or Louisville loss and by how much, okay? Starting at Saturday, February 1st, Louisville at Georgia Tech.
Guards by 20.
February 5th, Louisville at Boston College.
Cards by 17.
February 8th, Miami at Louisville.
Cards by 20.
All right. February 12th, Louisville.
Miami's this year's KP last year. They've completely.
It's even worse. They don't even have a coach.
Yeah.
Louisville at NC State on February 12th.
Cards by
Wednesday. Cards by 7?
6.
6.
I think, yeah.
I do think that's going to be a close game. I think that
NC
State can create good shots. They space the floor well. The Middlebrooks kid plays hard. If they, defend, it's all based on they sometimes they can't defend with the crowd.
Being on the road, I mean, and we saw last year, a Keats team when they play well, they can get hot and they can be a good team. And you saw it last year as they made their Final Four. They're running the Final Four, but I mean, they've been very sporadic this year. I don't know. I mean, Honey Hatfield has been. They play like Honey Hatfield plays. They will look awesome for a stretch, and then they'll disappear for the rest of the game. And that's kind of how their season's gone in a nutshell. And I think they play a little bit close to that game. I can see that one being a little more of a sweater.
I could too. I'm going to say Louisville by 10. February 16th, Louisville at Notre Dame.
Cards by 9.
I'm going to say this is the only loss on our schedule. On the rest of our schedule here.
Spoiler, I don't think you're going to get that from me.
I think Notre Dame wins by 3 here. It's just something weird. I was feeling weird about the next game, but there's just absolutely no way that this Florida State team on the February 22nd on Saturday at noon is going to come into Louisville and beat us. There's just
I'm just glad Boston. I'm just glad they haven't gotten better talent down in Notre Dame in 2 years already. Because Bruce Bradley, he's a great coach.
Give him some shooters and some defenders. He could go do some damage.
I think
but he's got a couple guys who can shoot. He's got a couple athletes. So,
and I think the problem
they need to be a little better this year with this roster. This roster is a little bit better than it was last year.
He's a better coach than this example, but he's got kind of that Ron Hunter thing going where his son is good, but he wants him just to shoot the ball. RJ Hunter at Georgia State effect. He wants him to he just does too much than he needs to do, and it's detrimental to the team, I think.
So you're saying Louisville gets by Notre Dame by 9?
Yeah, I think that's a game where Louisville is actually up big, and Notre Dame just kind of cuts it close, and Louisville pulls away at the end by 9.
Due to being on the road, I could see that.
Yeah.
Florida State at Louisville, February 22nd.
Cards by 12. Their size. That was one of the worst games Hadley had, even though he didn't play well, even against Wake Forest overall. But he struggles when he goes against some size, and he struggled in that Florida State game. I think that could be a problem again. What?
Mike just sent me this. Said could be a tough look for the family.
I can't see who that is other than him and his wife.
It's Terry Rozier in the middle of him, and it's like a captioned picture.
Yeah, I know.
It's like a captioned picture. We didn't address the Terry news.
I haven't looked too much.
That's hilarious.
I haven't read all the story about it, but I'm not. I'm sucked as a Louisville player. But come on, dude. First of all, it's just the Hornets. I've told you that's, or at least I've said this to other friends. Like the Charlotte organization is just like a total just embarrassment to the NBA. I mean, it's a dumpster fire of an organization. It's gone just all different directions over time, and to be surprised. I mean, if I'm Terry Rozier, I don't blame him. I'd have done it too.
It's one of those tough situations because
the Hornets. No one gives.
I know. Terry's got guys. He's got guys in his circle that are like, "What can I bet tonight? What should I take tonight? Let me know what to throw the money on." And he's just like, "Yeah, and I'm gonna be out to the next game. I'll be out at halftime this game. If I come out at halftime, take my live under." I pray to God that's not what's happening, but I also wouldn't be surprised if that would be the situation that led to it. Just because you have to know that there's got to be so much of that happening in the NBA and even in any sport. I mean, in college basketball, NBA, it's NFL. I think it's more of like high up people in betting and referees, kind of maybe potentially not necessarily like players actually being able to do anything. I mean, maybe quarterbacks can, but outside of the quarterback, only the quarterback gets the opportunity to be that important.
The NFL is one sport I don't think you're going to see much players affecting spread.
There's too many incentives. There's way too many incentives in the NFL.
In the NBA, I mean, in the NFL, you're talking about 16 games once a week. I mean, everything is
not guaranteed money.
I mean, listen, not everyone's watching every Charlotte Hornets game. In fact, no one's watching any Charlotte Hornets games.
No.
I mean, and to be shocked that there's a possible gambling situation scandal involving a team who's sponsored by DraftKings playing on FanDuel TV would have issues is just baffling to me. I mean, come on. Anybody who's ever watched Lorenzo Ball play has got to be thinking he's got to be on the fix in some way. I mean, this is no – and I don't know if now this is – I haven't read the story, so I don't know all the details. So I'm speaking a little blindly. I'm hoping this is not point shaving issues, because point shaving is the scum of the earth. You don't point shave. Now, if he's doing something to alter his prop bets, like the dude from what was Michael, the brother of the guy that plays for Denver, the Missouri kid. They got I'm drawing out of brain fart on his name now. The little brother of who plays at Denver. His name's Michael something. He played in Missouri. He was the big 6'10" kid.
Jonte Porter, Michael Porter Jr.'s brother, Jonte Porter. I don't know why I just blanked like that for a second.
I can name you. I can give you his fucking birthday. I couldn't tell you his last name.
I don't know why I just blanked like that. Jeez.
Yeah, his brother. That was what he got. Kicked out.
Yeah, same exact thing. Same exact thing that this could potentially be. I pray that it's not Terry. Oh, Terry! Please.
I mean, if he's doing it for player props, who cares? Let him do it.
Oh, Terry, two beauties. You need to go. Who's his name? Eric Collins? Is that the Hornets broadcaster?
Nobody.
The Hornets broadcaster. You need to watch Terry Rozier, Eric Collins. Is his name Eric Collins?
Is there a sadder organization in the NBA than Charlotte, by the way? Are they
Eric Collins? Yeah, Eric Collins is the Hornets announcer. He has some of the most insane Terry Rozier calls.
Does he? I mean, it's like the tree in the woods, though. I mean, is anybody listening? I mean, it's the Charlotte Hornets.
Hopefully, Terry's not involved in some shit like that. Hopefully, it's some other people involved with some shit, and it was because Terry got pulled and live lines were still out, and they knew Terry was going to get pulled before FanDuel knew, and now, there's just suspicion. I'm praying it's something like that, and it wasn't actually Terry involved. But
won't be the first thing somebody
know sooner than later. But Trevor, we just got very sidetracked there. We're not finished. We're not finished with our story. February 25th, Louisville at Virginia Tech. Who do you got, and by how many?
Guards by 11.
The 9-12, Virginia Tech. How do you say? Are they Hokies? Are they? What are they?
They're the Hokies.
I should know that. They're the Hokies.
Don't call them Vatek, though. They don't like being called Vatek.
The Virginia Tech Hokies. I know that the Hokies, but I don't know what a Hokie is. That's why I always am like kind of blanking on how to say it.
It's a bird. It's a turkey. Which is what they're going to. Which is what we're going to treat them like, a bunch of jive turkeys when we get down there.
Okay. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to hear. Pitt at Louisville, March 1st.
Cards by
and at this point, Trevor, you will have said that the Cardinals are on a 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 game win streak at this point.
And make it 18. Cards by 2.
Jeez. Okay.
Pittsburgh leads in this game. Louisville comes back.
We stay. This is the end of our regular season is all home. Cal comes to town, 9 p.m. on a Wednesday, March 5th.
I don't watch the Pac-10. I'm knocking everything over my belly over here, trying to sit up in my chair.
Cal played. They played SMU kind of close. They played NC State close. They beat Florida State on their home floor. They beat Virginia handedly. They did not play Clemson or Pitt well. So Cal's not nearly as good as us, but they're not some pushover like we think some of these other teams are going to be.
Last I gave two shit about Cal, Lamont Murray, and Jason Kidd were on the roster, okay? That's all.
I have to give a shit about Cal. That year, Jaylen Brown was on the team. That's when
Or the year they beat Louisville in the first round. Everybody, and Buckles had his career game, and everybody thought he was going to be awesome, and he wasn't. No, unfortunately. No, Louisville wins this game anyway. I'm going to say, just because even though I know shit about Cal, I know they're an average team. They're not a tournament team. I'm going to say Louisville by 11 as well.
And then senior night, last game of the season, Stanford at Louisville, March 8th.
Well, I don't know if Louisville's ever even lost to Stanford. I know we've beaten them in the tournament a few times.
Stanford's good. Stanford's good, but we're not losing on senior night with all these older guys on the team.
Yeah, I'll take Louisville. I'll take Louisville by Louisville's had some ups and downs on senior nights, though, if I remember in the past, even during Patino's days.
Really?
I think we lost to South Florida one year on senior night.
Oh, wait. Actually, I knew that. We did like what team? Like the 2016 Damian Lee lost on senior night to Georgia Tech.
That sounds about right. Nebraska's only up by 2 now.
Did Damian Lee lose on his senior night to Georgia Tech?
No, we had
those. I think I saw that. I think it was said on the radio today, actually, with Mike. I have to. My mind's blanking there.
Either way, I would still take. Look, I've already said Louisville's winning out. We're running the table, and we're going to do it at Stanford. I'll say Louisville by 14.
I love it. Louisville by 14.
There's a good all these
that will cap off a 20-game win streak going into the ACC tournament, winning our last 20 games of the regular season.
We need Kelly Dickey on this one. What's Louisville's winning streak? What's the longest streak? That would have to break Louisville's longest winning streak.
Would have to, right?
I mean, I can't imagine. I was almost blown away by the fact that we hadn't gone more than 3 games by shooting better than 80% from the free throw line until this year. That just baffled me. I was like, really?
I'm surprised we did that after what I saw us for free throw shooting at the beginning of the year.
But 20 would have to be. I think that's what it is. Now, hopefully, Louisville, what happens in the AC tournament is not, like history and the way we played in the AC tournament in recent years or since we've been in the ACC. But, this team's going to be hot. We are the second best team. I think Clemson's not far behind us, and I think North Carolina, obviously, with what they have on paper, can be competitive. But I just think it's us and Duke right now. I mean, the talent. The problem is now. That being said, the gap in talent between us and all these teams that I'm thinking we're going to win is not that huge. It's not like we're 1990 UNLV and we're just rolling through people like Anderson Hunt throwing oops and shit. It's not. While it's looked that way in the last 10 games, kind of. I don't think it's that evident on paper, but the way this team is just the way they're being coached, and is just the effort they're showing, and just the crisp defense. I mean, just the way they're playing on top. They're playing A basketball right now. That's not going to do. I mean, you're going to have to bring your A game to beat them the way they're playing right now. And unfortunately, for a lot of the opponents in Louisville's future in the ACC, we're gonna end up this season 1 loss in the ACC and 0-4 in the SEC
on a 20-game win streak.
Yeah, we're that if anything will tell you the difference between the SEC and the ACC this year in terms of basketball talent, that should do it. The second best team in the ACC, who I feel and confidently, even if we lose one more game, for God's sakes, we'll have be what 17-2 in the ACC in regular season, and we'll be 0-4 in the SEC.
18-2, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be 0-4 in the ACC.
That'd be crazy.
I mean, that'd
be crazy.
That tells you. Now, I know the timing of our opponents with that conference was, not the best, but it does just say a lot about.
Yeah, it wasn't. That's part of it. You knew it wasn't going to be easy. You knew it wasn't going to be the best. Trevor, that's going to end us up for today. We're actually not going to get into a Super Bowl preview. I want to save that. We'll get on before the 9th. We'll get back on before the 9th.
I don't know.
Do a true preview.
I'm not sure who I'm picking this game, though. I have no idea.
I'm picking. I got 3-peat. They're going for it. Unless Saquon can go 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, because there's no way to stop that. I hope he does. But at the same time, I just think that the 3-peat's happening.
I want to two things I want to bring up. One, because I don't know if you noticed me drinking my drink out of the Great Red Cup here. I want to tell this little story. It makes me feel really old, Roman. So I, like most senior citizens who only use Facebook, I am one. I get caught on the reels. You know the reel. You should know the reels. We're real, right?
Yeah.
And you get caught on those reels. And I'm one of those guys, one of those older, grandpas that next thing I know, it's like 2 hours later and I've been watching reels for nonstop. And one of the ones that always catch my attention are the ones, one of my favorites was 30 things that from 30 years ago that you had in your house that kids today would never know what it would look like. And I kid you not only did I have 17 of these items still in my home, at one point I'm watching this eating my chicken dinner out of this like container I use, this little cook container. and it's on the list. It's like
every cooking container.
It shows this like cooking dish. It's like every grandmother in the 1980s had this in their kitchen. I'm like, I'm out this exact dish. Kid you not, I could not write this any better. The very next thing they bring up, if you were alive 30 years ago in your home, you had one of these red cups, and I'm sitting there drinking out of the exact same cup. I get you.
That's goofy.
I counted 17 to 30. It's like at one point I thought they were in my kitchen filming. You know,
having a cup like that inside the house is insane.
It's great.
That belongs. It's a Gaddyland cup.
It was a Pizza Hut cup actually, and I took it from Pizza Box where I once worked, who had the similar cups. I have 3 of them still in my house, but it made me feel old. It just I couldn't help but laugh. It was like, if you remember these TV entertainment systems that had the glass door, I'm like, I'm looking right at it. I have it still.
That's ridiculous that you had 3 of the items in usage still. Still in everyday use. Not only do you have them, they're in everyday use still.
Thankfully, one of the few things I was upgraded as was like my TV size, because I do have a modern day TV, but everything else in my house, I mean, the wood paneling behind me, that was on the list. I was like, if you live in this house, I'm living in the room right now. It was very eye-opening.
We got to get you with the times, Trevor. We got to go get you some modern stuff. You're going to have a modern podcast room. It'll be cool.
True. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, best wishes to Danny Busby Kelly leaving us, taking the no surprise. I think we've known for years that as soon as the Nebraska job would open up, she would leave. And you can't have bad feelings for it. It is what it is. I kind of, to compare it to, it'd have been nice if she could have won that national title in the Young Center on her way out.
Win us one first, man. Come on, geez. But you knew when it opened up and they wanted her, she wanted them. So
yeah, I mean, I think,
and she made that clear. She made that clear from day one. So that's what you can't be mad at. I wish her. It's tough saying it. I wish her the best. I just don't wish Nebraska volleyball team the best.
No, I think. I mean, within 2 hours of them announcing the retirement of their coach, she took the job. I mean, I don't think it was any speculation whatsoever. There was no tampering involved. Obviously, it is what it is. Again, it's unfortunately not every Hollywood story ends with the great ending of her. I want to compare it a little bit to this a little bit before your time, but our old people might recognize it. I look at it like in a basketball equivalent of like we were Kansas and she was our Roy Williams. And we're a good program, and she's won here, and he took us to Final Four. She's taking us to Final Fours. Just couldn't get us that ring, but we can't be mad when she leaves us for another power program that she grew up in. And Roy Williams was an alma mater of North Carolina, and he left and went there. In this equivalent, though, if you haven't figured it out, Kansas would replace her, or replace Roy Williams with a guy who did bring them a national title. So hopefully, the coach. I don't know anything about volleyball. So I don't know if this guy is any good. I'm gonna trust the word.
Who's been there? He's been kind of her right hand, so he should know a lot. He should be smart.
Knows the inside about him. So I'm confident, and I trust Josh Hurd in his decisioning in this situation. So I feel confident Louisville's going to continue, and he's going to be our Bill Self without the bad toupee, and he's going to bring us that ring that Roy Williams couldn't bring to Kansas before he went home to North Carolina. And I hope she wins at Nebraska. I hope they don't beat us in the tournament at any point. But if we're eliminated and they're still alive, I hope she gets the ring. She deserves it. She's a great chick. Great woman. I can't say chicken. That's what chicken.
Yeah. If we're eliminated, I guess.
Yeah, we play them, fuck her. No offense.
No, hell yeah. No, all right, Trevor.
Nothing personal.
That's going to wrap us up. Today. This has been the Real Spiel Live Show with Roman Kelly and Trevor Kelsey. Like, comment, subscribe down below. If you guys have any questions, we do actually have one more commenter in here I do want to get out. It says, great show, fellas, from Mr. Bobby Jones. Thank you, Mr. Bobby Jones. We appreciate that. And that's going to do it for us today. Trevor, I appreciate you. I appreciate you